need to hear today, and I know by the grace of God, I should be able to do that. But the body language we always get is that the average Nigerian does not want to pay tax, no matter how small the amount of tax is. So today, we continue from where we stopped. We are going to be discussing or talking about the main changes in the Tax Reform Act of 2025. And whatever I'm going to tell you, take it, because I am a licensed tax practitioner. So I'm telling you the facts. Now the first thing is, who are those required to pay taxes? I know that has always been at the forefront. Who are those required to pay taxes? Now, all persons earning income, whether living or working in Nigeria or working abroad, there are conditions, so don't be scared. So, payment of taxes affects all workers, self-employed and corporate bodies. Corporate bodies include companies, NGOs, charitable organizations. We shall see how that payment of tax will affect us. For the fact that we say everybody that earns income will pay tax does not mean everybody must pay the tax. Some certain categories of workers or those who earn income are exempted from paying the tax. Now let's talk about what has been on the front burner, which is TIN certificate for bank operation. You know, when the new tax laws were signed into law, news came that anybody that does not have TIN will not be able to operate his or her bank account as from 1st of January 2026. The government came up with certain write-ups and information to allay the fears of Nigerians that that is not true, that if you don't have your TIN, that you cannot operate your bank account. That if you have your BVN and you have your NIN, that you will be able to operate your bank accounts. Media, please, can we get the slides? Because I want us to display the slide. Okay, go to the next slide. Okay, this is a TIN certificate. That is my personal TIN certificate. All these things have been in existence. It doesn't just come up today. They have been in existence, but they are not implemented. Now, the reason that the government wants people to enroll for the TIN certificate is that because many people are not in the tax net, it is a way to get more people into the tax net. Even when it is not required, I decided to get mine because tomorrow it might be required for something else. Now, this thing that we talk about is issued by the Joint Tax Board. In Nigeria, you can get TIN from two organizations, either from the Federal Inland Revenue Service, especially for companies, you get it. But when individuals are dealing on tax matters, it is the State Internal Revenue Service that you go to. So, you can get your TIN on request from the State Internal Revenue Service. That big story building opposite Total along Airport Road. So, the TIN certificate is very, very important because it might be required for some other things. Now, there was also the issue of bank deposits and taxes, that your bank deposits are going to be taxed. It will never be taxed, and it cannot be taxed, because money being in your account does not necessarily mean that that money is an income. All over the world, there is nothing like that. So the fact that there is money in your account does not mean it will be taxed. So remove that fear. When money enters your account from Western Union, or maybe from MoneyGram, or any means of transfers, it will not be subjected to tax. I hope that is clear. And if somebody sends money from abroad, when the money arrives in your account, it will also not be taxed. The reason is that the money might have been taxed abroad already. So there is no need taxing it. If you tax it, it means double taxation. And Nigeria and some other countries, they have what is called tax treaties. They have some certain agreements that you don't tax money that is coming from my country into your own country. So those arrangements and all those things have been there. So to avoid double taxation, that tax will not be. So, but why is it that the banks or the government is focusing on bank balances? The truth of the matter is that many of us, like I said, we don't like paying our taxes. So because of that, the government want to put everybody in the tax net, and they have given the banks authority that every 3 months, which is quarterly, they should be reporting any customer's account that is above 25 million for an individual. Then for companies, 50 million. Anyone that is above, they should report to the appropriate authority. And the reason why they are doing that is because they want to know whether some persons or companies are under declaring their income. But you don't have to be scared, because we know how to determine what is an income and what is not an income. So don't be scared about that. The personal income tax. This is the one that affects workers, those that work in organizations. Now, for anybody that is earning 800,000 and below, you are exempted from paying personal income tax. I hope that is clear. But anybody that is earning 801,000 and above will be subjected to what is called progressive income tax. Progressive income tax means that the more you earn, the more you pay. And those that earn less will also pay less. Then retirees and tax payments. Now, retirees are exempted from paying taxes, but there are conditions. If your severance package was 50 million and below, you are exempted. But if your severance package or your benefits is more than 50 million, then the difference between 50 million and that amount is what will be subjected to tax. I hope that is clear. There are loan facilities. If you collect loan from any organizations and it is paid into your account, it will not be subjected to tax, because loan is not an income. I hope that is clear. Then, the person who gave her the loan, he collected interest. That interest is income to the lender. That is what will be subjected to tax. Then, what we have said now is for individuals. Then for businesses, in Nigeria we have different types of businesses. We have sole proprietorship, partnership, company, government, so private schools, NGOs, and cooperative societies. Now for companies, the FROS, which will be as from next year be referred to as Nigeria Revenue Service, is in charge of companies. But for sole proprietorship and partnership, which the law recognizes as one, you as an individual and your sole proprietorship certificate, you are one body. So the State Internal Revenue Service is in charge of your tax affairs. But what we carry you to the Federal Inland Revenue Service is the case of VAT. For you to pay VAT, it's only federal government that collects VAT. So in that case, you have another reporting line to the Federal Inland Revenue Service. Now, in taxation, there's what we call allowable expenses and disallowable expenses. As an auditor, we have seen where companies will keep records, and the records, most of the things you see are transactions that relate to personal affairs. That is why when your returns go to the tax authorities, they disallow such expenses, they write it back, and they give you additional assessment. So know that there are expenses that are allowable. When you say expenses that are allowable, especially for your business, they should be wholly, exclusively for the company, not personal affairs. If you disclose them, they will be disallowed. I have some certain companies in their books, they made the company to pay tithe, and the tithe is also reflected in the financial statements. If the tax authority sees that, they disallow it and they will tax that amount. So you are doing it with a good heart, but the tax authority don't view it, so they view it like you are trying to cheat them. So remember, there are expenses that are allowed and there are expenses that are not allowed. And for companies, a company that earns from the new tax law, if your company earns 100 million and below, you will pay zero tax. But make sure that your fixed assets, the total fixed asset, is not above 250 million. Cooperative societies do not pay tax, while companies in sectors like agriculture, medical, educational, and charitable organizations are exempted from VAT, and from especially from VAT. Then the tax rates applying to other companies will also apply to them. Now let me talk about the church and how tax will affect it. Now, for the normal church activity, the church is exempted from paying tax. It is not only just church, it can be any other charitable organization, but I'm using the church now. But if the church is engaged in a business outside of the normal church activity, then they are supposed to pay tax. That is what the law says. For instance, we are doing transportation. The church is supposed to pay tax on that transportation. The income derived from it. But the problem has always been that how can you tax that aspect of the activity of the church when it is not a separate legal entity? It is not registered. So everything is done in the name of the church. So when the authorities maybe come for tax audit, for instance, and they discover income like that, they might want to say this amount should be taxed. So churches are exempted from VAT and all those stuff based on the ecclesiastical things that we do. But if the church gives a contract for maybe when this ceiling was done, they are supposed to deduct what is called withholding tax from the payment to that person. Because the church and every other charitable organizations, they are classified as under agents to the government. So they are agents for collecting tax. So advice generally is that we should separate our private money from our business money. Sometimes we mix them together. So when the tax authorities come and they are asking questions and you cannot answer, they will make you to pay more taxes. So we should keep proper and accurate records of our businesses. Then make sure that you are compliant to the tax law. Because if you are not compliant, then you might fall victim of paying penalties. You must have seen written sometimes in some banners, pay your tax. It is your civic responsibility. And from Romans chapter 13 verse 6, the King James Version, for this cause pay ye tribute, that is tax also, for they are God's ministers, attending continually upon this very thing. So Bible supports the payment of taxation. Now as a closing remark, I would say the government of the day will do anything possible to generate more revenues through taxes. When citizens see their tax money being used positively to develop the country, government does not need to roll out new tax reforms, as citizens will voluntarily comply in paying their taxes without compulsion. And as a way of keying into the theme of the prayer conference, which is Acts chapter 9 verse 6, King James Version, Lord, what will thou have me to do? I respond and say, pay your tax. Praise the Lord. So, there might be questions. I will advise that you write your questions down, give them to the duty pastor, then on any other occasion we shall respond to all